Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. Today we're picking up at chapter 2, verse 31. Now remember these first few chapters, Moses is rehearsing the wilderness wanderings for Israel. He's talking about the last 40 years when they had to wander in the wilderness. Now those days are almost over. They're about ready to cross the Jordan and possess the promised land. Now, we know that the conquest of the promised land really begins when they cross the Jordan. That will come under the leadership of Joshua. However, there was some conquest that began even before they crossed the Jordan. Even at the end of the wilderness wanderings, Israel had come into possession of some of the land on the east side of the Jordan. And that's what Moses is going to talk about at the end of chapter 2 and at the beginning of chapter 3. How Israel had conquered two kingdoms on the east side of the Jordan River. That's what it says. We're in chapter 2, verse 31. The Lord said to me, "See, I have begun to deliver Sihon and his country over to you. Now begin to conquer and possess his land." Now when Sihon and all his army came out to meet us in battle at Jahaz, the Lord our God delivered him to us, and we struck him down, together with his sons and his entire army. So as the Israelites are moving up along the east side of the Dead Sea, toward that area east of the Jordan, they encounter the land of Sihon, an Amorite king. Now, this story is also told in Numbers 21 about this battle. At first, the Israelites had asked Sihon for permission just to pass through his land, but he refused, and he came out to meet them in battle. And Moses reminds the people here, God told me, don't be afraid of him. Go out and meet him. You will conquer him. You will possess his land. So this is an Amorite kingdom that comes in the possession of Israel when they defeat Sihon and his army. However, there's more to come. For as they journey on past this land of Sihon, they come also to the land of Og, who is the king of Bashan. He rules an area just north of that which Sihon had ruled. That's in chapter 3. Now next we turned and we went up along the road toward Bashan. And Og, the king of Bashan, with his whole army, marched out to meet us in battle at Edrei. The Lord said to me, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his whole army and his entire land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon." So the Lord our God also gave into our hands Og, the king of Bashan, and all of his army. We struck them down, and we left no survivors. At that time, we took all of his cities. So you see, Israel has already come into possession of land on the east side of the Jordan River. It's the land of the Amorites. Part of it was ruled over by Sihon, part of it was ruled over by Og. And so already, even though technically the conquest of the promised land has not begun, see, the promised land is across the Jordan River. But already Israel has come into possession of some land which will be part of their land on the east side of the Jordan River. Now notice it says that Og was the king of Bashan. That's important. Throughout the Old Testament, we're going to see that Bashan is always seen as territory of the enemy. And by that I mean the enemy of our souls, the satanic forces. This is common throughout the Old Testament. Bashan is seen as under the control of the enemy. So when Israel comes into possession of that land, it is God's way of saying, I'm defeating the enemy of your soul, the one who caused the downfall with the original temptation, Satan. I'm defeating him by my strength. God is showing himself to be God, even over these demonic forces. So the fact that you're taking Bashan shows that God is God. Now remember, all of these other peoples, these Canaanites, worship false gods and false idols. And God is showing himself to be superior over all of those other gods. They are nothing. Only the Lord is God. And when you conquer the land of Bashan, that sends a clear signal that only God is God. These other deities that these Canaanites worship, they are false gods. And even though Bashan was seen as the land of Satan, it falls under the hand of the Lord God. He alone is truly God. And so Israel comes into possession of that land. And so even before they cross the Jordan and begin the official conquest of the promised land, they come into some possession of some important territory. The land of Bashan that previously had been ruled over by Sihon and Og. These two kings are defeated, and Israel is already in possession of that land. Moses reminds them of that. So you see how God has already given this land into your hand. So you know that when you cross the Jordan River, he will give all of Canaan into your hand. God has already shown himself to be victorious. He alone is God. And as he gave you the land on this side of the Jordan River, on the east side, when you cross the river, he will give you all of the promised land into your hands. God can always be trusted to fulfill his promises. Hope you join us tomorrow as we continue our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy.